Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy video. This will be the best wildcard team for Matchday 3, and typically in UCL Fantasy, this is one of the best times to use the wildcard chip because Matchday 4 has the same fixtures as Matchday 3, only reversed from a home to an away fixture or vice versa. I want to see your suggestions down in the comment section below of the best options because I won't be able to cover absolutely every single one of them, but I will try to cover the vast majority of them that can do very well from now until the end of the group stages. If you end up enjoying this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. We are very close towards 21,000 subscribers and our aim is to get this video to the 200 likes. Both will be massively appreciated. There's also going to be the team selection video where I'll discuss whether I'll use the wild card or possibly 2 free transfers, and in the deadline stream you will see my final squad as I look to recover after a poor start, possibly the worst I've ever had in UCL Fantasy. So let's jump straight into this 50-man squad for the best wildcard team. I have discussed Sommer extensively throughout this UCL Fantasy season, even before Matchday 1 began, and he's got another plum fixture at home to Salzburg, and Inter Milan are the favourites to top this group. They've had a good start, a draw away from home against Real Sociedad, and a 1-0 win over SL Benfica, and I think Inter Milan will finish top, and they will also keep the most clean sheets in this group, and Sommer has the saves potential as well. Inter Milan also won 3-0 away from home against Torino over the weekend, and I think Sommer is just a fantastic option at that price. He is such a great option even on the Limitless. I do discuss him there as well as a really possible good alternative there for your Limitless squads, and in general I just think he offers fantastic value for money. So if you are looking for a 4.5 million goalkeeper or below, I don't see anyone better than Jan Sommer, to be quite frank. Now, in terms of most of the key assets in the goalkeeper position, they will come from top teams, and as a result, they are all very expensive, priced at 5.5 million and above. So if you decide to go with the structure of one cheaper goalkeeper like Sommer and one premium, then the one I would recommend is the highest owned goalkeeper in the game, and that's Ter Stegen at home to Shakhtar Donetsk. The only difficult fixture from now until Matchday 6 is Porto, and that will be a home fixture as well in Matchday 5. So their toughest game has already gone by in Matchday 2, and Barcelona kept yet another clean sheet, and they are looking very strong at the moment despite some injury problems surfacing like Jules Koundé, and that's a bit of a shame because Koundé was kind of a lock-in for this wildcard team as well, and we have to go without him. And I think the best way of covering Barcelona defensively as a result would be Ter Stegen. When Koundé is fit though, he will be number one because he's only 5 million and offers ball recovery potential. So those are my two goalkeepers, Sommer and Ter Stegen, two familiar faces, the two highest owned goalkeepers in UCL Fantasy for a reason, and they're both in my own team selection as well. Another familiar face is Denzel Dumfries, who got yet another assist against Torino yesterday at the time of recording. Just to kind of timestamp this is recorded on the Sunday morning, so there will be more games happening later on today across Europe, and bear in mind there could be injuries and some things rising to the surface, and that will be outside my control, but we can update each other in the comment section of this video. But Denzel Dumfries, a very solid option with great attacking potential, and even in Matchday 2 he showed some decent ball recoveries with plenty of points there as well for those on the Limitless, wildcard or the normal team. So I'd thoroughly recommend Denzel Dumfries. I think he is a great option and probably the best way to cover Inter Milan defensively, with the exception of Jan Sommer. So this is the only defensive double up we will go for as a result of the Koundé injury. Otherwise it possibly would have been 2 defensive double ups like we discussed in the Limitless video as well. In terms of other defenders to discuss though, this is one that I haven't really discussed too much this season, but in Matchday 3 he's already getting a lot of love, and he was also talked about in my Limitless video, and that is Di Lorenzo away to Union Berlin, and Napoli won 3-1 away from home against Hellas Verona, and I think Di Lorenzo is probably the best Napoli asset period, even over Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen, but those two of course are certainly worth considering as well in the other positions. But Di Lorenzo at 5.5 million is a jack of all trades, and he is a fantastic option. The only issue is that Napoli haven't been great defensively, so I'm not expecting too many clean sheets, but the attacking potential and the ball recoveries will always be there. Now in terms of the other 3 defenders, it is a bit difficult I think because there aren't too many standouts in Matchdays 3 and 4 in my opinion, but if I had to go for one 5 million defender, maybe go for the ball recoveries and possible clean sheets here and there, it would be Kim Min-jae, but he is facing Galatasaray away. So if I'm being quite frank, I think Bayern Munich will concede in matchday 3, but in matchday 4, a clean sheet is possible against Galatasaray at home. And then you look at matchday 5, facing Copenhagen at home as well. That could be yet another clean sheet. Matchday 6 will be Man United away, and if Bayern Munich are already top of the group and also secured their qualification, then maybe they will rotate in that game and they can still get the victory there, even with a rotated side. And Kim Min-jae might not play matchday 6, but for matchdays 3, 4 and 5, I could see at least 1 clean sheet. I possibly would see 2 as well, and Kim Min-jae could also get the ball recoveries on top of it to make him a very good UCL fantasy option at only 5 million. Then we go to the other 2 defenders, and you could go for Inigo Martinez from Barcelona if he starts on Sunday, so keep an eye out for that. That could play a big part in your final decision making. He's only 4.5 million, so keep an eye out for Inigo Martinez. I think he could be a great option, but the one I'm going to go for right now, and it seems a bit silly because he is in a very difficult group, but I would go for Dan Burn, who is one of the highest scoring defenders, if not the top one at the moment in UCL fantasy, with 16 points, 2 8-pointers. He scored against Paris Saint-Germain as well, and he's also been very solid in FPL. He's a very good option, and Newcastle are one of the most informed teams in Europe. They just won 4-0 against Crystal Palace in game week 9 of FPL. They beat Paris Saint-Germain 4-1 in matchday 2, and they're also on an unbeaten run since their defeat to Brighton Hove Albion quite earlier on in the season. So I like Dan Burn, and of course Trippier would be the best way to target Newcastle defensively and with the overall team, but in order to stay within budget, I've gone for a cheap alternative in Dan Burn, and I think Newcastle will keep a clean sheet in matchday 3 against Borussia Dortmund. Of course, away from home at Signal Iduna Park, maybe there'll be a different story, and in matchdays 5 and 6, it could also be a concern. So if you don't want to go for Dan Burn, as I said before, and if we get, let's say, some signs of Inigo Martinez being a regular starter, then he could be the other one here. And his ownership is actually really low. It's 0% exactly. So he could be a fantastic differential at home to Shakhtar Donetsk. But I want to see in the comment section down below, would you prefer Dan Burn from a very solid Newcastle team that are in form, or would you go for a kind of riskier punt in Inigo Martinez around 4.5 million and at 0% ownership? He could be an absolutely amazing differential. So I'm kind of in 2 minds about this one. And if I had to pick, maybe I would risk with Inigo Martinez, but of course it all depends on if he starts on Sunday or if maybe Xavi gives some thoughts after the game and he says, you know what, Inigo Martinez has a good chance of starting on Wednesday against Shakhtar Donetsk. So that's something definitely to monitor over the coming days. And look, they're not the only 2 good 4.5, 4.6 million defenders in the game, but they are probably 2 of the best, assuming that Inigo Martinez does get the nod there as well. The final defender is a bit more of an expensive one yet again, and he hasn't been great so far, but the ball recoveries can always bail him out, and that's one of the best defenders in world football, Ruben Dias, who was benched in game week 9 against Brighton for Man City in a 2-1 victory there. He came on later on in the match, and he should start here in matchday 3. Of course, Man City do rotate quite heavily with their defenders, and that's always going to be an issue. But I thoroughly believe Ruben Dias will start the vast majority of games in the Champions League, and he's a fantastic option, even though he's priced at 5.5 million. Of course, just to clarify, I would only go for Inigo Martinez if we get some inclination that he's going to start, because it could be Araujo and Christensen as the centre-back partnership, and that is the strongest that Barcelona have on offer at the moment. But if we get that kind of sign of a 4.5 million starting defender for Barcelona, I think that's a great opportunity that you don't want to miss out on. But for now, Dan Burn, you know he's going to start. He's a solid option at 4.5 million against Borussia Dortmund. He can get 1 clean sheet, and then afterwards you could upgrade to a 5 million defender or go elsewhere entirely heading into matchday 4. So that could be booking in a transfer, of course, but I do like Dan Burn and Newcastle defenders for matchday 3. The first midfielder we do have is Stengs, who did really well in matchday 1, a bit underwhelming in matchday 2, but he did face Atletico Madrid away from home, and he's also done very well so far in general. 13 points, his ownership is 1%, yet another differential here on the wild card. But I can see some of you saying, what about Brais Mendes from Real Sociedad? He scored at the weekend against Mallorca. He also has a really good record in the Champions League. I think he's the highest scoring player period, even over Jude Bellingham, who is just behind him. But Brais Mendes is certainly one to look at. But the reason why I'm not going to include him in this wildcard team is because he faces Benfica away. And look, he can score in that fixture, of course he could, but I think his ceiling will be lower in this game. And if I had to predict, I think Brais Mendes will blank for the first time so far this season in UCL Fantasy, and I'd go for the fixture of Lazio at home, who have been struggling so far in this campaign, and Feyenoord have been pretty decent so far. They are the Dutch champions from last season, and Stengs is a very good option at 6.1 million. So I would go for Stengs, but if you also want a bit more of an expensive midfielder, still priced around 6.6 million, then Brais Mendes is certainly one to look at. And if you think Benfica are there to be targeted, they're not the same as last season, then go for it. I think Brais Mendes is the best Real Sociedad asset alongside Ramiro as the 4 million goalkeeper option as your backup. Then if we keep on going to the midfield, I just mentioned him now a minute ago, and that's Jude Bellingham. He's got 25 UCL fantasy points so far. He's a great captaincy option on the Tuesday, and his form has been absolutely scintillating. Real Madrid did draw 1-1 against Sevilla. It was a very tough game. Sergio Ramos beefing his old teammates. It was fun to watch, to say the least, but Jude Bellingham is still a good option, of course. He's probably the best in UCL Fantasy, pound for pound. He's criminally underpriced from the beginning. After what he did at Borussia Dortmund last season, he should have been priced at least 8.5 million, and that's kind of being a bit generous there as well. But we've got a bargain on our hands. I would recommend to absolutely everybody watching to buy Jude Bellingham if you haven't already, and he's certainly the best Real Madrid asset that we have on offer as well. The third midfielder is someone who caused a lot of frustration for me because I had him in Matchday 1, he was benched. Then in Matchday 2 on the Limitless, I got rid of him and he scored. And that's Marcus Thuram, and he produced another attacking return against Torino yesterday. He is a very good option out of position, and there could be rotation from time to time, or he's not going to play the full 90. He's going to be subbed out around 60, 70 minutes. But when he's on the pitch, he's got a very good chance of scoring points. And I still actually prefer Thuram over Lautaro Martinez in terms of covering Inter Milan offensively because of the price difference and the out of position nature of the Frenchman. Marcus Thuram caught my eye in the World Cup. He's strong, powerful, good on the ball. He's a good finisher, and I think he's a great option in UCL Fantasy, facing Salzburg at home, then away in match days 3 and 4. So I would go for 2 Inter Milan players on the wildcard, and that's just the minimum, I'd say. I think that could be the sweet spot, but in this wildcard team, I've gone for a triple up with Sommer, Denzel Dumfries and Marcus Thuram. The fourth midfielder is an interesting one. He was absolutely amazing in Matchday 1. Then he had a tough fixture in Matchday 2, so he blanked, but he is still a great option. His ownership is 6%, and that's Galeno facing Antwerp away. So keep an eye out for him if you want to go for a Porto player. David Carmo, in the defense, he could be decent. But I think apart from that, Taremi up front is decent as well. But I would just go for Galeno. He's by far the best Porto asset, in my opinion. Of course, if there are people watching from certain clubs I'm covering today, like Barcelona or Porto, give your thoughts on these players as well. Maybe you can pick out, a hidden gem there that we're not talking about in this video, and he could do the job as well. The fifth midfielder is someone I also covered in recent videos, and he hasn't been great in terms of goals and assists so far for his new club, but it is İlkay Gündoğan, and when I say not great for goals or assists, he hasn't scored a single goal for the Catalans, and in La Liga he has been a bit inconsistent in terms of attacking output, but in the Champions League he's got returns in the first 2 match days, and of course you are heavily relying on assists or goals there from İlkay Gündoğan. Not many ball recoveries so far, and he also got a Man of the Match award, and that boosted his score as well. So İlkay Gündoğan is a bit of a risky pick, and maybe he's the kind of least nailed on in this midfield, but he is a solid option, and you want to cover Barcelona offensively with either Joao Felix or Gündoğan. Erling Haaland ended his mini goal drought with a very, very good strike against Brighton Hove Albion outside the box, and he's facing Young Boys away and at home. There might be some people saying, well, Man City could rotate, but they still need to qualify and secure first because Leipzig could win the rest of their games, and that could put Man City in a bit of trouble, really. But Man City should finish top quite easily, and I think they'll get the job done by match day 5 or 6, and then afterwards Haaland could be benched, and that's where you could sell him to maybe a striker who still has something to play for. Could be Lewandowski by the time he comes back, but I also think the same of Barcelona. I think they will also qualify relatively early as well. But Erling Haaland, I think, is a fantastic option in match days 3 and 4, and possibly the best captain, period, even over Jude Bellingham. But if people ask, who should I captain, Bellingham or Haaland? Come on, they play on different days. Captain Bellingham on the Tuesday and then Haaland on the Wednesday if your original captain Bellingham doesn't do well. And that would be my final definitive answer on the captaincy with this 50-man squad as well, just like I discussed on the Limitless video too. Now, my second striker, it's a bit risky to do this sort of thing, but I'm going to go for a double up here. And it is Julian Alvarez going for 2 Man City attackers and 2 forwards, which doesn't look great. You normally want to diversify your forwards and have, one from different teams really. But Alvarez is a great option as well. He scored against Brighton. He's had a great season so far. His attacking output has been fantastic for Man City. And even when he doesn't get goals or assists, like for Argentina recently, his pressing is probably the best in world football for a striker. And he's facing young boys away and playing just behind Haaland. It's a great partnership they have going there. And I think Alvarez is integral to Pep Guardiola's side. The final forward is going to be one of the best strikers in world football, Harry Kane away to Galatasaray. And I definitely would cover Bayern Munich offensively with at least one player, either Leroy Sané in the midfield, maybe Musiala, or going for Harry Kane up front. On the wild card, I don't think I'd have a double up. Maybe on the Limitless, that's where I'd go for two Bayern Munich attackers. But on the wild card, I think one is enough, and Harry Kane is the best of the lot. Another goal for him against Mainz away from home, a 3-1 win for Bayern Munich, and that's a very solid front line. But I can see some of you saying, well, I want Brais Mendes. Fair enough, you can go for him, maybe over Gundogan, and also maybe you want Joao Felix. You could go for him over Alvarez, but overall, I still like this complexion of the team. It's a very solid foundation, and depending on your personal preferences, you can make some changes here or there, like the ones I just mentioned. You don't have to limit yourself to this exact 50-man squad, but it is one of the very best wildcard teams you can make, if not the very best, in my opinion. I mentioned the captains before, and I'm going to stick to it. For me, Bellingham on the Tuesday is the one you want to go for, and as always, when you're sorting out your bench and the captaincy, go from fixtures to date, and then you'll see who plays on the 24th and the 25th. So just to kind of give you a brief example, you would start Sommer, bench ter Stegen, and of course if Sommer blanks, you can then bring ter Stegen on during the substitution window. The same goes for your other bench players that you have. So you see in the defense as well, you've got Dan Burn and Ruben Diaz playing on the 25th. You could just bench both of them, and that's quite easy. And you could also bench from the 25th, let's say Galeno. So that's 3 25th of October players on your bench alongside ter Stegen as well, and you can bring those players on for those that score the least amount of points from your starting 11 who play on the 24th of October. I think the balance is quite good as well between Tuesday and Wednesday. You have 7 playing on the Tuesday and 8 on the Wednesday. Typically, it's the other way around. That's kind of what you're trying to strive for. But you have Sommer, Dumfries, Di Lorenzo, Kim Min-jae, Bellingham, Thuram, and Kane all playing on the Tuesday, and the lowest scoring players you take off for those on the Wednesday. The captaincy, like I just said earlier, Bellingham on the Tuesday and Haaland on the Wednesday. You cover the 2 template picks, 2 of the best UCL fantasy options period, with plum fixtures, although both are away from home, and a lot of these fixtures for these players are away, so that could also be something else you want to factor into your thinking on the wild card. But remember, these players will have a home fixture in Matchday 4. It will be reversed, so all of that does play a part, and all of these players will have a good fixture in both match days 3 and 4, and some of them, probably the majority actually, also have a decent fixture in match day 5 as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Who are you looking to captain in match day 3, and which players would you include in this wildcard team that I haven't discussed today? Of course, I have mentioned players like Brais Mendes, the highest scoring midfielder and player in the game so far this season. Up front, you can go for Joao Felix, even Lautaro Martinez at home to Salzburg. There are definitely some alternatives here. Leroy Sané, Musiala, I like the look of too. Even Bukayo Saka away to Sevilla. There are so many options in UCL Fantasy this season. Kieran Trippier, I could keep on going and going. Hakimi, but ultimately, I would go with this 50-man squad on the wild card. There could be 1 or 2 changes here and there from now until the deadline. And if I end up playing the wild card myself, this could end up being my final 50-man squad. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 21,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon and channel memberships for early access to my videos. And also, you can get access to all my team reveals for UCL Fantasy and FPL, and you can also have exclusive badges and emojis to use in my live streams and videos. You can join the Discord server for the UCL Fantasy and FPL channels. You will never miss any single deadline, and you'll be up to date with all the latest information by joining the Discord server. And there's also the UCL Fantasy League, the biggest in the world. We're looking to grow that even more. We have over 2,000 members, so let's keep on growing that community as well. It'd be very much appreciated. I wish you all the best of luck for match day 3 and the rest of the Champions League campaign, and I'll see you next time.